Okay, welcome to another course of MySQL. Our course TCS 535 databases and data retrieval. Here is our an overview of the lecture. So as a first step, we're going to learn relational database concepts. Have so many words that you need to know actually in databases, and then another SQL concepts that are important. We're going also to talk about the types of SQL statements, how to create and drop database, and then how to create and drop a table, and then how to truncate a table, alter a table. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about MySQL constraints, insert a record, select a record, okay? Now, let me tell you before we begin the lecture, each time I'm going to give you a query, make sure to do it on your exam control panel in the SQL script. Now make sure to do that, like how to create a database, how to delete a database, etc., etc. But before that, the statements are not really hard. However, there is some words that are, or let me say, vocabulary that is crucial in these course. Relational database management system stores and retrieves data that is represented in tables. Relational database consists of tables that stored interrelated data. Okay? All right. Now, database table in a relational database, all the data is held in table. And when we say table, means that these are made up of rows and columns. Okay, each table has one or more columns, and each column is assigned to a specific data type, which makes sense. So, like for example, if I got a name, then I make sure it's a verbal type char, so we got characters. If we have age, means that it's going to be an integer number. We do have like a salaries, means that it's going to be like a float data type, etc., etc. So each row in the table has a value for each column. Okay, like for example, let me say each record would have a value on each feature. If you wanna, column means a feature or attribute, or depends on the project. A typical fragment of a table containing employee information may look as follows. So an employee ID, the employee last name, the employee first name, the employee phone number, the employee, etc. All right. So, relational database concepts. The tables of a relational database have some important characteristics that we need to learn or that we need to know. There is no significance to the order of the columns and rows. Wherever is the first fixture, it's fine, no problem. Now, each row contains one and only one value for each column, and each value for a given column has the same type. So, like for example, I couldn't, for the column of first name, put in a number, and these are instead of first name or last name or characters. And we're gonna push the user who's gonna create the database that when he's gonna insert a new record, it must be a verbal chart, or hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Now, if we go a little bit, the following table lists some of the formal and informal relational database terms describing tables and their content together with equivalent in the other non-relational database. Okay, so formal term for relational. It's relation, and we got attribute and tuple, but in informal relationship term, instead of talking about relation would be table, sorry, attribute would be a column, and tuple would be row. Okay, now if we go to the non-relational table is going to be file, and the column is going to be field, and the row is going to be record. Okay, so make sure to know these because these are important, because sometimes we say row, sometimes we get record, sometimes we get tuple. It's the same. Okay, just you need to make sure to check out the difference. So, when you are designing your database, make sure that each table in the database holds information about a specific thing, such as employee, product, sales, customers, etc. By designing your database this way, you can set up a structure that eliminates a redundancy and inconsistencies. For example, both the sales and accounts payable departments may look up information about customers in a relational database. The information about customers is entered only once. Okay. Let me also talk a little bit about primary and foreign case. Primary and foreign case define the relation structure of a database. Now, these cases enable each row in the database table to be identified and define the relationship between tables. Okay, it's really important that you can see while you're doing your database what's gonna be my primary key for that table and what's gonna be my foreign key for that table. Okay, to answer the question, let's see first what's a primary key, right? All tables in a relational database should have a primary key, that's for sure. The primary key is a column or set of columns, might be one, might be two, okay? Might be maybe the whole columns. Depends, just like I said, on the intention of the table that allows each row in the table to be uniquely identified. No two rows with a primary key can have the same primary key value. Okay, it allows to make things unique. In a table holding information about employees, the primary key might be an ID number assigned to each employee. In the sample database, the tables of sales order items has the following columns. An order number that identify the order number, just like when you order something on Amazon, of course we got like an order number, right? And then a line number that identify each item on any order. So when we got like too many, if you buy so many items, so you got the order, and then we need to make sure each order where it comes from. A product ID identifying the product being ordered, a quantity showing how many items were ordered, or ship date showing when the order was shipped. To identify a particular item, both the order number and the line number are required. The primary key is made up of these columns. Okay. Now, once we learned the primary, about the foreign key, right? The information is in one table unrelated to that in another by foreign key. Okay, so as you know, in database we got more than one table, right? So we need like a foreign key, okay, for each table, which makes sense because how can we identify the tables? The sample database has one table holding employee information employee information, and one table holding department information. The department table has the following: department ID and ID number for the department. This is the primary key for the table, and then the department name, each column holding the name of the department. Um, and then the department head ID, the employee ID for the department manager. Okay, so to find the name of particular employee's department, there is no need to put the name of the employee department into the employee table. Instead, the employee table contains the column holding the department ID of the employee's department. Now, this is called a foreign key to the department table. Foreign key. I just repeat the statement. Okay, now to make more sense, let's see this example. This example, the employee table, which contains foreign key in the relations, is calling the foreign table or referencing table. The department table is called the primary table or the referenced table. Okay. Okay. Right now we're going to move on to other database concepts. A relational database holds more than a set of related tables among the other objects that make up a relational database are. Okay, so it is important just to have an index. So indexes allow quick lookup of the information. Conceptually, an index in a database is like an index in a book, which makes sense. In a database, the index relates each indexed column value to a physical location at which the raw data containing the information. So, for example, if you go to the yellow table, okay, you got name and ID. Now, this ID, for example, number 1, okay, would let it's a location, okay, it's a location about the information of, for example, Mike, etc. So indexes are important. We already seen an example in the homework. You must already upload the turn in your homework, which we have created an index to our database. Now, other database concept, which is views. Now, views are computed table or virtual tables. They look like a tables to clients application, but they do not hold data. Instead, whenever K accesses to the information in them is computed from the underlying tables. In the table that hold actually the information are sometimes called base table to distinguish them from views. But basically views, it contains a combination of the whole information. Okay. Oh, sorry. Now, we're gonna move forward to the stored procedures and triggers. These are, I'm gonna right now talk a little bit, but it's easy to learn. Now, these are routines held in the database itself that act on the information in the database. You can create and name your own stored procedure to execute specific database queries and to perform other database tasks. Stored procedure can take parameters. For example, you might create a stored procedure that returns the names of all customers who have spent more than the amount that you specify as a parameter in the call of the procedure. Now, let me say that procedure, like what? If you remember when we did Python, we learned functions, right? Functions and procedures are the same. So once you know the queries, you might create your function or procedure that turn a specific task. Because you would like instead of doing so many queries or so many statements, you just have to recall the procedure. Okay. Now for now, we're not going for this lecture because these are just concepts. Okay. For this lecture, we're gonna learn statements, but for the next week, we're going to learn how to make this procedure. Okay, that's number one. Number two, what is a trigger? Is a special stored procedure that automatically fires whenever a user updates, deletes, or insert data, depending on how you define the trigger. Because you need to know if we are working all on the database, there is an admin who's gonna let us know either to access to the data, like just view the data or edit the data. So trigger would just let the admin know uh, what is the update? Simply, have we deleted something? Have we inserted a new record or something? You associate a trigger with a table or column with a table. Trigger are useful for automatically maintaining business rules in a database. Okay. I think this is gonna be the last part. We're gonna use it later when we link the SQL with the programming language, just like Python or Java, but we're gonna work, of course, with Python. So each user of the database has a user ID and password. You can set permissions for each user so that confidential information is kept private and users are prevented from making unauthorized changes. User can be assigned to groups in order to make the administration of permissions easier. JavaScript objects or Python objects, I can tell. You can install Java classes into the database, and Java objects provide a powerful way of building logic in your database and special class of user-defined data type for holding information. But this last information just like I told you to make a link or like between programming language and MySQL. Okay. All right. We learn a lot about some concepts, but right now where are the SQL statements? Okay. So SQL is divided into four types of primary language statements. Okay, we do have something called DML. Okay, DDL and DCL. DCL and TCL. I'm gonna go through each one of them. Now, using these statements, we can define the structure of a database by creating and altering database objects, and we can manipulate data in a table through updates and deletions. We also can control which user can read, write, or manage transactions to create and to create a single unit of work. Okay. Um, But what's DML first? Data manipulation language. So wherever we need to select some data, insert some data, update data, this is called DML. So DML statements affect records in the table. Now these are basic operations we perform on data, such as selecting a few records from a table, inserting a new record, deleting unnecessary records, remembering data in pre-processing. Sometimes we have some missing data, and hence we need to delete some records to achieve certain goals, and hence we need to do some updates. So this is data manipulation language. Okay, of course we're gonna do some. We're not gonna do them all in the lecture, but we're gonna do some. And also we're going to have a practice in later in class. But DDL, data definition language statements are used to alter, modify database or table structure and schema. Now these statements handle the design and storage of database objects. So for example, create a new table, database schema, alter an existing table column description, drop, delete existing object from database. Okay. All right. How about DCL, which is the data control language? These are statements control the level of access of the users have on database objects. Grant allows user to read and write on certain database objects. Now revoke keeps users from read-write permission on database concepts. Lastly is the transaction control language, which is the TCL statement, allow you to control and manage transactions to maintain integrity of data within SQL statements. Now begin transactions, open a transaction, we do have a commit a transaction, and we have a roll back, and it's a transaction in case of any error. So basically, this would be later by the end of learning MySQL. But just remember that TCL is a type of SQL statements. Okay. Now, first question, how to create a database, right? Simply, we do have the following syntax. Create, just look at the blue part. So create a database test database, or name it my database or my first database, whatever. I'm gonna make sure to end up each statement by semicolon. That way we allow the compiler to know that the statements, that's our statement. That okay. After that, if we need to check if our database is created, we're just gonna say show databases, okay? And then to drop database, just like drop database and name within the name of your database. I recommend, just like I told you, to go to the SQL script and exam control panel. Try all of them. Check out your database if it is created. Show your of course, show your databases, and then finally drop it. And again, show your database to check if it is drop it. Okay. All right. Now we know that database is a bunch of tables. But how can we create a table? Make sure to look at just simply at your the red part. That's the syntax, and then you have then after that it's going to be the table name, and then parentheses. You're gonna column one is going to be your first attribute, second attribute. Of course, you need to mention the data type. The data type parameter specify the type of the data the column can hold. We have a var chart, we have an integer data, etc. Okay, I'm gonna show you an example here. Just create a table, and this table we're going to name it persons, and then we're going to do person ID, last name as a varchar, and in wherever we do varchar, we need to specify the size, I did 255. You can do 100 characters. This is not a problem. Just specify the size. The address, it makes sense to do 255 because we got the street, we got city, we got spaces, we got so many characters, okay? And the city is going to be data type as a voucher. And now finally, you're going to have a table that looks pretty. Person ID, last name, first name, address, and city, okay? Later, I'm going to show you how to insert data on that table, okay? This is not a problem. You can do it. Okay, right now, if you want to, let's say you want to copy a table, because sometimes we already have table and we need to add others, so we need to make sure to copy that table, right? Or even within that data and maybe add more features or add more columns. So we need to maintain the old data and do some updates or changes to the new table. It's just like create a table and then we need to make sure, of course, sometimes we don't have to select all the columns, okay? We have to select like only, let's say, first name and last name, and you don't want to like redo the same work. So, and then you have to tell from what table and then where, okay? Where is the database? So create a table, call it test table, as, and then after that select the customer name and the contact name, for example, and then from the customers table. That's why I told you make sure to do it. Okay, right now, how to drop a table. The drop table statement is used to drop an existing table in a database. Let's say that you already got a table within a certain data, and then you want to get rid of that one and maybe copy the first one, and So it's going to be drop table within the table name. Okay, one of the other important statement is the truncate table. So MySQL truncate table statement is used to delete the data inside a table, but not the table itself. So truncate table and then table name. Okay. This statement is very important. Sometimes you type some records and these records, I don't know, maybe you got something wrong. So you need to truncate. So remember, if we need to, but make sure to not to save your data as long as you can. But it's a statement that we need to learn, right? All right. Alter table statement is used to add, delete, or modify columns in an existing table. This is important, okay? I got some data, I got some new records, some new features, so I need to modify, okay? I need maybe to delete a column, I need to add one, etc., etc. Now, how we're gonna do that? If we are working on columns within the statement alter, okay? So that would be alter table, and then if you want to add, then add just the column that you want to do. Of course, all the time check out the data type of the column. Did you add a phone number? Did you add, I don't know, an address? Did you add depends on the project, just like I told you, okay? It's important to learn that. Okay, right now, drop a column of simply, it's going to be alter table within the table name, and then drop the column and make sure to have the correct column name. Otherwise, I'm gonna miss your data. To change your data type, okay, sometimes it happened. We were working on data that we need to change we were working on certain feature and later, let's say, later we want to change the data type, okay? Let's say that even these numbers, we want to convert them into char data type, okay? It is going to be modify column and specify the name of the column, and after that the data type. And always remember the semicolon, okay? The semicolon is really important, you know, that gonna let the compiler know that this is what you want, and here the statement end, okay? All right. Okay. Now, if we are doing a database, it is important to make some constraints, okay? To make some specials to your features, to your record, to the privacy of your record. Now, this is called MySQL constraints. We're gonna learn some of them today, like this week. Later, of course, we're going to add more constraints. Now, SQL constraints are used to specify the rules for data in the table. So, constraints can be specified when the table is created with the create table statement, or after the table is created with the alter table statement. Okay, now it's going to be create a table with the table name, the features, the data type, the constraint, etc. Okay, now SQL constraints are used to specify the rules for the data in the table. So when you create a table, you specify a certain certain constraint to each feature, just like I told you. So like for example, I don't want to have 0. I don't want to have a missing value. Etc. etc. Now you might have the question, okay, so what are the constraints, right? Okay. Now these are our constraints. Like I said, just some of them. The following constraints are commonly used in SQL. Not null ensures that a column is not a null value. Unique ensures that all values in a column are different. Primary, like a combination of not null and unique. Okay, so now remember the primary K is important. Uniquely identifies each row in a table. And foreign K prevents action that would destroy links between tables, okay? Because remember that foreign K is the column that allows to make a link between tables. Check ensures that the values in column satisfy specific conditions. So like for example, I want the age, all the values should be positive, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Default, set a default value for a column if no value is specified. So if I've got missing data in this certain column, then I want to replace it by 0. So if the user does not enter the value, it is going to be replaced by 0. Create index used to create and retrieve data from the database very quickly. Okay. Now here is an example. We create a table called persons, and the ID, the data type is integer, and the constraint here is not null. The last name is a varchar, the size is 255, and I required it's not null. I should have a name. First name is a varchar 255. I haven't done any requirement for that statement. The age is integer, but I can add like a constraint, just like I told you. The city is a varchar, and then it's 255, and then default, just put any default city. Okay, and then of course when I finish it's a semicolon. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about indexes. The create index statement is used to create indexes in a table. Indexes are used to retrieve data from the database more quickly than otherwise. The user cannot see the indexes, they are just used to speed up the queries. Okay? Now, create index and then you have to put in the index name on the table, and then you have to specify the columns that would that would be assigned to the index. Okay, so like for example, you can create index name on person, last name, and first name. Okay, and then later you can use that index in another table. Instead of working with the first name and last name, you would just work with the index. Can you see? So you are saving your information within that index and you can work with it in a certain way. Okay, of course, next week we're going to do some examples. Already right now we use some statements and we can use it. Okay, now one of the let me say one of the important statements in MySQL auto increment, which allows a unique number to be generated automatically when a new record is inserted into a table. Often, this is the primary key field that we would like to be created automatically every time a new record is inserted. So MySQL used the auto increment keywords to perform an auto increment feature. Now by default the starting value of auto increment is 1 and it will increment by 1 for each new record. Okay. So like for example when you create this table which is called person and it has like person ID, last name, first name, and age. I just have to add a primary key, person ID, and then the person ID is null, and you need to add auto increment. So the next time, that's the creation of the table. Oh yeah, I remember something right here. When we add like a new record, when you do the auto increment option, you don't have to insert the person ID because it would be updated automatically simply. Okay. All right. Now finally, well, it's not finally, actually, it's a lot to learn, but it is important to know how to insert because all of the things that we did before it was just about tables and database, but however to insert a new record we use the statement insert into. It's used to insert new records, insert into customer name, city, country, and then the values are controls tab, you know. I would recommend that you create a database, you create a you create a table in that, and then you insert. Okay, you insert some values. Okay, some actually it's not some values, but some records. The values are the values of each record on each feature or each attribute. Pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. All right. I want to also talk about the select statement that is used to select data in database. So, like for example, you want to select a certain column. It's going to be just select and then the column from the table name. Now, column 1, column 2 are the field names of the table you want to select data from. If you want to select all the fields available in the table, use the following syntax, just like asterisk. Like if you wanna, you don't have to specify the columns if you don't wish to do that. Okay, we're almost done. Pretty sure this lecture is a little bit long, but the where clause is used to filter records. Okay, it is used to extract only those records that fulfill a specific condition. So, like for example, let's say that you got data about patients and you want to do a study. I don't know, machine learning project or something. Then you're gonna say, "Oh, I wanna uh, like the data where the age is, for example, between 12 and let's say 19 years old." Now, this is where it comes from, okay? Just keep the syntax in mind. We're going to use it next week. And then, lastly, I want to thank you for watching the lecture. Let me know if you have questions, and most likely, try the statements on your laptops, on your device using exam control panel. I'm just gonna see you on the next lecture. Okay.